In this distance learning lesson, we'll be thinking, what was the impact of the purges? So last week we were thinking about why did these purges happen with Kirov's murder, but this time we'll be thinking about the nature and the extent of them. So our learning objective is to examine the social, political, economic and military impact of the purges. And you can see in here a picture of a show trial, one of the examples that we'll get onto. Okay, for the starter task, I'd like you to have a look at the cartoon and have a think about the question. During this period in the Purges in the 1930s, people in the Communist Party started confessing to crimes that they'd never actually committed. As strange as that sounds. So the first thing to do to get your brain going is, why do you think someone would plead guilty to a crime they hadn't actually committed, just like Kamenev and Zinoviev did? Why do you think they would do that? So you can pause the video now and then complete question 1 on the Microsoft quiz and then come back. Okay, we'll have a look at what you've written there, but it is also one of the quiz questions, so hopefully you should be able to answer that before the end of the lesson. Here's a big idea for today's lesson about the purges. They evolved during the 1930s. So it started in 1934 after Kirov's murder, but it didn't just happen all in the same way at the start. It started within the party, so it's very political, with Stalin purging his enemies. It then expanded into the military eventually, where he was really trying to make sure that there was no possible threats to his position, and that threat could come from the army. And then eventually it spread across the whole population. It's referred to as the Great Terror as well. So if you see that or you hear that, we're still talking about the same period in the 1930s and the same idea about Stalin using force and violence to secure his position. And quite simply, it affected the whole of the Soviet Union. So there wasn't one person who wouldn't have known someone or even more directly been affected by these purges and the terror. Okay, there are some important words for today. Purge, we said, is to get rid of elements that you don't want. So for Stalin, people that were deemed to be disloyal to either his ideas or the country. The NKVD was the secret police, and they were going to carry out this purge. They also ran the gulags. In 1936, they were led by a guy called Yezhov. He was nicknamed the Poison Dwarf. He was known for torturing people personally, and he had a very, very bad reputation for the terror, which led to people in the Soviet Union calling it the Yevoshchina. Okay, this period led by Yezhov. So from 1936 to 1938, he was in charge of the NKVD, and he was responsible for a lot of the executions and people being sent to work camps. They were called gulags, as you can see here. A gulag, therefore, was a labor camp, but actually a lot of people were worked to death or just simply not given enough food or the proper resources to survive. Now, in Soviet society, a lot of people were very scared, and they started to accuse other people of these crimes against the party. That's called a denunciation. And one of the reasons they would do that was purely just for self-survival. If someone else was being sent to a gulag, it might mean that you wouldn't be. And the last thing here to say is that there will be some trials that took place as well. So quite often, if you were denounced, there wasn't really a trial as such at all. Not like we'd expect in a country with a fair, open and transparent legal system. But there were some show trials where the verdict had already been decided, but they wanted to give the impression of a legal system being followed. Okay, what do you actually need to do in this lesson? So you should have already completed the starter, thinking about why someone might commit to or confess to a crime if they hadn't done it. You're now going to learn about the political, military, economic and social impact of the purges. Now there's quite a few sources to look at and quite a few multiple choice questions to do, but this is just about knowledge building your knowledge and your understanding of what these purges were and how they affected the country. Then I'd like to have a debate. We've not done this yet. The question is going to be, or the theme will be, Stalinism was a disaster for the Soviet Union. I'd like to think if you agree with that, you disagree with that. We'll come back to that in the middle of the lesson. And then also there is a Quizlet that we're going to finish off on. Again, just consolidating our knowledge in a competitive way. So there you are. That's what we're doing for today. We can finish off with the resources, as you can see here, for the Quizlet. But for the moment, go back to the Microsoft Office quiz and work your way through the second section, learning all about the impact of the purges.